are live on the interwebs. This is our second episode for the day because why not do two in one day? I don't have anything better to do. And we are here with Alissa. And Alissa is the amazing and fantastic executive director of Colin's Hope. And Colin's Hope was started in memory and inspired by Colin Holst, who tragically drowned, and Alissa can talk more about that. And she has a fantastic background in all kinds of things. She's been an athlete ambassador for a couple of different organizations, and she has a great history in swimming and doing all kinds of marathons and races, and also in marketing, and is a huge advocate for water safety. And I just knew she would be the perfect person to be the fourth ever guest on the Child Safety Resource. So yeah, that's it. Hi, how's it going?
Perfect. Hi. In my world of racing, fourth means you're off the podium. So, but that's okay. I'm going to get on the podium on this one.
You can still be the best one ever, but Perfect. Number 4, right? Perfect. And today is the best day ever, right?
It is, as you can see.
I like that.
You'll hear that multiple times during this interview. It is our mantra here at Colin's Hope.
It's funny. I used to tell people, and I should probably get back on it. When people would say, "How you doing?" I would respond that today is the best day of my life, because every day gets a little bit better than the day before, just by the sheer momentum of being alive, and that everything's going well. So since every day is a little bit better than the day before it, every day you see me is the best day of my life. So Perfect. It kind of fits the best day ever mantra.
Yeah, well, for us, it was what Colin used to say every day. He used to say today was the best day ever. So in an effort to have a really positive spin on a very serious topic and honoring him and his legacy, that's kind of why we use it. So
it's perfect.
It works.
I love it. Yeah. So like I said, I wanted to start with your origin story. If you were a superhero, what would be your origin story? How did you get started? Kind of where did you come from? And what is the 90s to 2-minute version of, where you started to where you are now?
Sure. Well, so me as a person, that's a, okay. Yeah. Maybe my superpower is powered by sunshine. I don't know. I think I have a pretty good, and all my life have been a real positive person and full of life. I think you used the word vibrant. I love that when I read that. And that's probably a superpower and has been with me all my life, both my role in my family as well as with friends. And now in the work that I do, I would say that my origin involved a lot of sunshine. I don't know if the sun was shining the day I was born, but I like to think it was. And that's something that I always lean into, is being positive, even in the most negative or troublesome situation, is finding that silver lining, finding that ray of light to sort of lean into. And so I guess that I thread that through my personal life, through my work life, through whatever it is that I do, I try. That doesn't mean I am a human. And so sometimes that superpower is not as sunshiny, and that's okay. But that would be probably what I would say to that question. That's a hard question to answer.
It is. So how did you get started in life? You graduated high school? Did you go to college?
I graduated high school. I got my undergraduate at Mary Washington College in Virginia. I'm from outside the DC area. I played soccer in college. From there, I went and did a year as an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer, which is Volunteers in Service to America. Oh, wow. Spent a year in Ardmore, Oklahoma, working with...
So what, I've never heard of that organization. So what is that?
Okay. Well, so Vista actually started in the 60s as one of the War on Poverty programs. So you have the Peace Corps, which is a international 2 years of service. Vista is a domestic service. So I spent a year, I had a living stipend, a very small living stipend, and I spent a year doing service in Ardmore, Oklahoma. I worked with a group called Communities in Schools, and I served Indian children, so Native American children that came from about 30 different tribes across Oklahoma, but they lived in a boarding facility in Ardmore. And so I developed youth development programs, mentoring programs, tutoring programs, coached about 5 soccer teams, basically helped integrate the kids into the community that they lived in, and helped also keep them connected to their culture, because a lot of them had lost their Native American culture throughout the story of their life. So I spent a year doing that. And then I went to work for General Colin Powell at an organization called America's Promise in DC. And that was about connecting communities with resources for children. I did that. And then I moved to Dallas, Texas, and I was an AmeriCorps recruiter. So I went around to colleges trying to get other young people and old to do AmeriCorps, which is one of the programs that I had done.
So what made you move to Dallas?
The job. It was a recruiter job, and I was sick of the traffic around DC. Honestly, I don't like to sit in traffic. It's one of my things. I feel as though it's a way to waste hours of your life each day, and I don't want to do it. So I was looking for something new, and so I went to Dallas and then did that for a year, ended up in Austin to speed it up a little bit, spent some time at the Texas Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service, which was funded all the AmeriCorps programs in Texas. So I got to come at it from the other side, handing out the money and monitoring programs in different communities across Texas. And then I spent 10 years at Communities and Schools of Central Texas, which did dropout prevention. So we worked with kids who were struggling in school with academics, attendance, and behavior. And a lot of the times those things were problems and issues because of things that were going on at home or issues around poverty. So I was there for 10 years, and then Colin Holst drowned, and my daughter went to preschool with Colin. And so in June of 2008, I got a phone call from the director of the preschool where both Colin and my daughter Ella went to school. And he said, Alissa, I know you work with social workers and counselors at your job. Tragically, we had a student drown yesterday, and our teachers need help. Can you send some counselors and some social workers over to debrief the teachers and work with them? So I did that. And 3 months later, Colin's family started Colin's Hope. Now, when Colin drowned, it was a wake-up call for me as a parent of a small child that drowning was something I needed to even think about. I live by the lake. We swim all the time. I'm a swimmer. I'm a triathlete. And my daughter, when she was 2, could swim across the length of the pool. But I did not think that drowning was something that I needed to think about. And suddenly, because of Colin's drowning, I realized, wow, this is something that I need to be plugged into as a parent and talk to my friends about, talk to whomever. And I started when Colin's Hope started 3 months after Colin drowned, and this is our 10-year anniversary. So June 13th will be the 10-year anniversary of Colin's drowning, and August will be the 10-year anniversary of the formation of Colin's Hope. And I immediately started volunteering for Colin's Hope. As I have a deep admiration for Jeff and Jana Holst, Colin's parents, as do I have for all of the families that I now work alongside and warrior alongside with Families United to Prevent Drowning. But they turned their tragedy into triumph, and we're trying to use the worst tragedy the parent can face and turn it into something that saves lives. And I had to be a part of that. And so I was a volunteer for about 2.5 years, and then they decided that they wanted to make an even bigger impact and they needed to hire a staff person. So they asked me if I would be the executive director, the first staff person for Colin's Hope. And so I left my very stable job of 10 years and I have a history in, nonprofit management. So this was, I just gotten my master's in organizational leadership and ethics. And it was an opportunity to, help a startup organization become something bigger and brighter. And it was a good challenge for me, and it was a good time in my life. My daughter was in kindergarten, so I was able to have a different schedule where I could be available to go to things at school. So there was a lot of win-wins. And I told myself, I'll do this for 5 years. I'll do this. I'll get them onto a sustainable path. And 7.5 years later, here we are. And it is, I couldn't think about leaving this organization. We're small but mighty. We now have 3 staff people, myself, a program director and a program coordinator, 4,000 volunteers strong, and many, many, many partners across Texas and beyond that really help us do our work every 365 days a year. So that's the sort of condensed version of I guess, my work life. I didn't know anything about water safety when I came on board with Colin's Hope, but now I feel like I know more than I ever really wanted to know. Yeah. I know more stories that I carry with me every single day, and I feel like I do the work of those families and the work of not only honoring Colin, but honoring all of those families and the children that they've lost to drowning, or the children that they have survived non-fatal drownings, because that we work with those families as well. Something that before we get too far into this, I want to tell you why I'm wearing a life jacket.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so go ahead.
well, because I spend all my days in a life jacket. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm actually wearing a life jacket because we work in partnership with the LV Project, which is in honor of Connor Gage, who was a 15-year-old here in Texas who lost his life to a fatal drowning in a lake, and he was not wearing a life vest. And so the LV Project and the National Injury Prevention Council, and in honor of two other boys in Texas, Christopher Gregor and Jose Servin, have launched a Dare to Wear One campaign during May, which is National Water Safety Month. And they're daring people to wear life jackets in situations that are not water-related activities, and then take their picture and use the hashtag Dare to Wear One on social media to really bring out the message that life jackets save lives. Life jackets can be cool, and to challenge people to change their behaviors around water, and specifically in this case around wearing life jackets and wearing U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets. There's another one behind me. But so anyway, I wanted to support their Dare to Wear One campaign and challenge anyone who's watching or anyone who sees this to do that. Put on a life jacket, go somewhere fun, and take your picture and then tag it on social media, whether that's Facebook or Twitter, or Instagram, whatever your social media platform is. So I will do this entire thing wearing my life jacket. It's quite comfortable, actually.
And you know what? If you hold the sign up again,
okay,
we can get a screenshot and have that be your picture.
I gotta somehow figure out how to see it with my life jacket, though. This is hard with a little tiny camera. I don't know. It is.
I get rid of your name. Get that out of the way.
We'll figure it out.
Hold on.
If I were taller, it would work better.
I wish I was a little bit taller. Okay, perfect. We'll take a screenshot, and that'll be it.
Okay.
I got it.
Did you do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back and get it.
Done with that commercial message, but that was for the LV Project and NIPC and those boys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool. So tell me about your surfboard.
Oh, well, this is a wake surfboard. That's actually not mine. It belongs to someone who purchased it at our Best Day Ever party auction, but it's a local company, Tuk Tuk, and they designed it for us. And I actually got to create the design and pour the resin and help them make it. And
that's really cool.
It's the custom Best Day Ever board. So it has to go to its home, but I needed a backdrop for this interview. So I thought, why not? Why not promote our partners here? And
it's super cool.
Yeah.
And is it functional? Will they be able to use it?
Totally functional. It's a really high-end, awesome wake surf board. So these are our friends at Tuk Tuk Boards, local to Austin, Texas.
Nice. Yeah. Out here we have a local company called Nomad. They make surfboards.
Nice.
And it was started by a guy named Ronnie Heaviside, and actually he passed away like a week ago, and his sons have taken over the business.
Oh, wow.
And they're local legends down here in South Florida. They're a little surf shop. It's been around for like 30 years, and it's
cool.
Super
Maybe
cool.
we can commission them to do a Best Day Ever board.
They would love that. They would totally do that. Yeah, I would totally love. And behind you again, the yellow life vest.
Okay, so the yellow, and I don't want to move it because it may fall off the couch here, but this is I'll talk about this guy later.
Yeah, please.
But this is from our friends at TRC, which is another Texas company, and this is actually the Remembering Wyatt Dale. They're a partner of ours here in Texas, and Wyatt's grandmother does a lot of life jacket distribution because they lost Wyatt to a lake drowning. And TRC is our local company who's made these life vests, and they distribute them. So I figured I'd have it in the picture and give a little support to them as well.
No, they're great. And I want to, like I was saying kind of before we got started, I want to get a hold of them because when the child safety store launches in a month, I definitely want to make sure I'm carrying their life vests because they're really good.
Soft.
They're super soft. That is their main message, right? And they're child sized, which is hard to find.
Yes, they have a bunch of different sizes. So even more than the standard life jackets have infant, child, youth, and then go up into adult sizes. And they have multiple different, even more sizes. Because life jackets are actually, it can be complicated to find the right fit and the right size. And that's a big thing when you're choosing a life jacket. That they're proper.
Especially because infants can be all kinds of different sizes. So it's nice to have. So
options.
Options are good. So tell me what Colin's Hope is up to right now, what you guys have going on, what's exciting and new.
Okay, there is something exciting and new every single day here at Colin's Hope. It's National Water Safety Month, so we have a page on our website, which is colinshope.org, that focuses on some initiatives during National Water Safety Month. One of the things that we're trying to do is get people to change we have a Facebook profile frame that you can change your profile picture to. It says May is National Water Safety Month, and you'll hear
I saw that. It's very cool.
Yeah, and Colin's dad created that, and you'll hear me talk about, and I'm going to try to show this, being a water guardian. It's kind of our campaign that we are using on pretty much everything that we do this year, challenging people to be a water guardian, meaning, obviously we distribute 75,000 of these water safety cards each year in both English and in Spanish. And they have water safety tips on the front. They have on the back, it's hard to see, but you can see it's a letter from Colin's parents. And so it's Colin's story. The statistic that shows that children under 5 are at the highest risk of drowning. It's that stat that drowning is the #1 cause of unintentional injury-related death for children under 5, and Colin was 4. So that's really our target. We work with every age group, but that's our target. And then here's what's so cool. You may have seen water watcher tags or things like that. This is our version of that. And this little piece here breaks out of the side, and there's a coil wristband, and we use volunteers to attach 75,000 of these every year. And we challenge people to be a water guardian, appoint an adult who is the water guardian when you're in, near, or around water, who's actually watching the water. Their eyes are on the water. They're not distracted. They're not on their phone. They're not checking Facebook. They're not engaged in conversation. They're not drinking. They're actually watching the water because, as you know, but other people might not know, drowning is fast and drowning is silent. And so if you're watching the water, you can see a child get into trouble. You can see if a child falls in. You can see if they're struggling. You may not hear anything. So if you're engaged in a conversation or not looking, you can miss a drowning as it's happening. So we challenge people to be a water guardian. That's both being a water guardian when you're at the water, and then we also have an online water safety quiz, which I'll challenge you, Eric, right now if you haven't taken it.
I have taken it.
Okay. It's on our website, and it's 10 questions, everything from don't leave a child unattended in the bathtub to how to get out of a rip current. And you can't fail it. When we were developing the quiz, I took a lot of online quizzes, and I didn't like the ones where they actually gave you a score. And if you didn't do well, it's sort of shaming, and we didn't want to shame anyone. We want to educate people. So if you get a question wrong, it'll throw you a ring buoy as a hint, with a hint. And then if you get it wrong a second time, it'll just give you the right answer and pass you on to the next question. At the end of the quiz, you can share it on social media, and you can also put in we track by zip code, where people have taken the quiz. And so far, I haven't looked at it in the last couple of days, but we're getting close to 6,000 people that have taken it in at least 29 different countries, which is pretty awesome. That's amazing. We've had someone ask us if it's in English and Spanish right now. We had someone ask if we could translate it into Estonian. I don't know. I don't particularly have the ability to do that. So if anybody does, but it's just a free way to raise people's water safety knowledge levels and get them talking about water safety. And so anyone that we can send to take that quiz we're focused on kind of getting that word out and working on that and getting people just to talk about water safety. So during May, again, we have a page on our website. We actually have a partnership. We're asked to be partners in a campaign with FCB Health, which they are trying to bring attention to the signs, and I'm going to see if I can talk about this very simply because it's a very complicated conversation, but you may have seen in the media stories about delayed drownings and secondary drownings and dry drownings, and a lot of media hype and hysteria is created among people about those terms. And we're trying to work with FCB Health, who wanted to bring awareness to the signs and symptoms of the drowning that occurs after leaving the water. And so we worked with them, and they have a website, notoutofthewater.com, up, and also working with Dr. Justin Semsprat, who is a very well-respected doctor who is really trying to bring awareness to people to stop using those terms and really focus on what to look for when any water-related incident happens where there are symptoms immediately, and then the symptoms can continue after leaving the water. So look for more on that. They've got a website, notoutofthewater.com, and it links to our website to then talk about general water safety, because that's something that we really want to keep people focused on also, is what you can do, simple things that you can do to change your behaviors around water. Because if we change our behaviors around water, we talk about drowning as something that we all do actually need to think about, then we will reduce the numbers of drownings. I mean, I know here in Texas, we're up over 20 fatal drownings of children this year already. And non-fatal drownings, it's estimated that there are 5 to 6 times as many non-fatal drownings for every fatal drowning. And, in some cases, the non-fatal drownings result with no injury, and we're lucky and it's a miracle and nothing happens. And in other cases, non-fatal drownings result in lifelong, brain injuries and lifelong challenges for both the child and their family. And we've had a number of those here in Texas that it's just heartbreaking to watch as families live with that for forever. So that's, we're just trying to get people talking and get people realizing that drowning prevention and water safety is something that they do need to think about it. It's not something that somebody else needs to think about. We all need to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, Jessica Curtis and I talked this morning a little bit about the dry drowning, secondary drowning craze, if you will. And we put out a blog post a couple weeks ago on how it's not really a thing. It's kind of this invented, it's just misinformation,
right?
That's been, taken by storm. One person published it and they were incorrect in how they described it, and then it got picked up by, and because it's terrifying, right? The idea that, your kid looks fine and then an hour later drops dead is a really scary message. So that's not actually and actually I wish that I had Justin sitting here, Dr. Sunswart, next to me, because this morning we had a really good conversation. I said, you need to give the elevator speech because this is really hard. And I'm going to hopefully get him, and maybe you can get him on to give elevator speech, because he knows what he's saying. And what he was telling me this morning is that, just like, and I say this to people all the time, just like if you hit your head and you think you might have a concussion, like go to the doctor, take your time. I know I'm a competitive athlete and I've had multiple concussions throughout my history as a soccer player and now as an off-road triathlete. And you go and you're on concussion watch and you get checked out. And that's the same thing that Justin was saying. Like if you choke on water, you sputter on water and it continues then you need to go and get it checked out. And better safe than sorry, and be on awareness for, they'll keep you at the ER for, he said, I believe 2 to 4 hours. And then other things may surface. And he was saying in some of those stories that are put out as dry drownings or secondary drownings, it was actually not a drowning. It was something else that occurred. And I would let him speak on all of that. So have him on, but it is something that we struggle, the people that are working in drowning prevention 365 days a year, to get people talking about just simple things every day that they can do, and to get that dry drowning hysteria hijacks the messaging that we're trying to push out. And it's really like controlling people's fears around that. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid to get in the water and go swimming. We shouldn't be afraid to put our kids in swim lessons because of that. It's a very tiny percentage of, that happen. But when you see it go hysterical in the media or on social media or whatever, it is sort of trying to demystify that for people is one of the things that we've been actually working on over the last couple of weeks. It's hard. It's hard to battle the mommy blogger who puts it out and it goes crazy. I'm a mommy myself. And, as a parent, you get, panicked about certain things. And so we want people to get educated about, what they need to look for and what they need to do. And then also just talk about, if you're watching, the basic thing, if you're watching kids around water, you'll see if something happens and you can respond to it immediately. So, yeah. And, I remember a few months ago, I think it kind of hit its peak, but, thankfully people like you and, we've tried to do our part, and all of the other, water safety folks in the community have done a really good job of trying to combat that. And it seems like the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way, where, people are learning that, dry drowning and secondary drowning isn't really a thing. There was that great article put out by that nurse. I'm not sure if you read it. It's amazing, but the title is something along the lines of dry drowning isn't real. Like, there's no such thing as dry drowning. And she's an RN, an emergency room RN, and she breaks down the science of it and, goes step by step on how dry drowning isn't a thing.
The other article by Dr. Semsprot is a really, really good one too. I haven't read that one, or maybe I have, but
I'll put a link to it in the comments when we're done. It's fantastic. It's so good.
Okay.
She does a great job of explaining it. And yeah, so, I think finally, it took a second, but we're starting to do a good job of, educating people on the, correct side. But it is hard once the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, to grab the genie by the tail and re-educate all those people who read a headline and got scared and have now moved on with their lives, right? Who aren't in water safety all the time.
Right. So yep. Redirecting them to the basics. And, that's the kind of stuff that we have on the water safety card and on our website. I don't think you can probably see this, but the little icons are each of our water safety tips, the layers of protection. And on our website, you can click on each of those icons and it goes into in-depth information on each one. So if you want a little bit of information, you can go on the website and get it. If you want deeper information and articles and links and all of that on anything in particular, you can do that. We worked really hard on our website for an entire year to try to make sure that the content was helpful, make sure that it was correct, and that we linked to other things that were really good resources and not recreate the wheel. So for, example, it's on the wear life jackets one, we have a link to, I think it's the US Boating Council, on how to properly fit a life jacket. It's a video. We didn't need to do our own video. We can lean on the people that's their wheelhouse. So, I challenge people to go take the water safety quiz, to go on our website and dig around and find answers and really educate yourselves about what you can do to be part of this solution. Because I really do feel like if we can get people realizing that they need to be part of the solution. This is not something where they're like, that's for somebody else. That message is for somebody else. That's not for me. Because if you ask any of the families that we work with, and I'm going to stand up for a second.
Yeah.
And I have our Not One More cards, story cards. And if you ask,
I love those.
If you ask any of the families that are part of the Families United to Prevent Drowning collective, they didn't think this was their story either. They didn't think they were going to lose or almost lose their children. And that's something that I know that we struggle with all the time when I talk to parents is, they'll be like, oh, my child knows how to swim, or, oh, that's not us, or, oh, my kids are older. And, I had an interview with a middle school student yesterday who chose water safety as her project. And so cool. I went and talked to her, and it was really fantastic to get to sit with a young person for an hour. And she was a swimmer, so it was something she was passionate about. And I shared some of the Not One More stories with her, and specifically the ones of the older children. So of Drennan, who was a competitive swimmer, and of Connor, and told her those stories. And at the end of the interview, I asked her, I said, well, tell me, what did you learn in this? I hope I gave you enough information for your presentation, but what did you learn, or what was impacting to you? And she said, honestly, when you see the stories and you see the faces and you see the kids, it's so much more real and it's really impacting. And I said, well, you're right, because those are the families and those are the kids that, we're honoring with this work. And their families have been courageous enough to share their stories so that we can save lives. But I really think this is getting the message, water safety messaging out to everyone is huge in any which way we can, whether it's a webcast or a Facebook post or an Instagram post or pounding the pavement at community presentations and things like that. It's going to take all of us continuing to do this work together 365 days a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I was talking to Jessica this morning, she had said she didn't think this could happen to her. She was one of the parents who didn't think drowning was something that happened to you.
Right.
And obviously now she regrets that. And I was asking her, and I would actually pose the same question to you. It's interesting how we properly, I think, assess the threat of, say, cars, right? Yeah. You can't leave, if you have a baby, you can't leave the hospital without a car seat, right?
Right.
You would never put an infant into a car without a car seat. You always make sure your kids have seat belts. If they're on a bicycle, you make sure they have a helmet. You would never leave a gun out on a counter. I mean, right. Or even in a house with kids, for that matter. It's got to be in a safe. And all these other areas, we make sure that we have proper safety precautions. But more kids drown than die in car accidents. A child is over 100 times more likely to die in a swimming pool than be killed by a firearm. And there's way more kids that drown than die in bicycle accidents. But we don't seem to have the same level of
urgency,
not fear, urgency. Respect, urgency when it comes to the pool. If I, go to my friend's house and they've got, well, I would, but if most people go to, their friend's house and they see that they've got little kids in a pool and it doesn't have a fence around it, they don't freak out the same way they would if they saw, infant in a car without a car seat. Right. Even though statistically they're way more likely to drown in the pool.
Right.
So why do you think that we don't have the same reaction to water safety as we do car safety and bike safety and all these other things?
I think it's time. So for example, like I'll be 44 next month. And I know that the way that car seats were thought of when I was a child was very different than how they are now.
Sure.
And same thing with bike helmets. I mean, you've seen things progressively, cultural norms changing. And I think that we're getting there with same thing with seatbelts in cars. I mean, it's taken through the years. Those things didn't used to be, like a long time ago, 50 years ago, there wasn't,
car seats.
The whole car seat thing.
Or seatbelts even. Seatbelts. Yeah.
Or bike helmets. And now there is. So I feel like we're actually on the cusp of changing the cultural norms. And I talk a lot about that when I do presentations to anyone, to families, to kids, to lifeguards, is talking about that, creating a culture of water safety and changing the norms around it. So for example, the life jackets, let's use that, because I'm going to channel Dana Gage of the LV Project, Connor's mom, right now. And she wants, life jackets on lakes, like seatbelts in cars or helmets on bikes, right? And that's, I think, going to take time. I think it's a thing where you have to, like my daughter just turned 13 2 days ago. And she knows that she has to wear a life jacket when she's in open water. And when we went paddling on her Sunday, and she had a life jacket on, and she knows not to argue with me. She still wants to argue with me, but it's, I tell her, I'm like, if you wear it and your friends see you wearing it, and then they'll wear it, and we're going to change the way that people think about it, one person at a time. And I think that's where we're moving with water safety. I think we're starting to be loud enough with the national conversation. And I went to the Global Drowning Prevention Conference in Vancouver this year and was able to see what's happening in other parts of the world. And I really do feel like this is we're going to see over the next few years. I'm very hopeful that we're going to see water safety get closer to where we are with car safety or bike safety. I'm on the board for Safe Kids Austin here, and we talk about all kinds of childhood injury prevention, and safe sleep, safe bikes, safe pedestrians, safe cars, all that stuff. And I really do see water safety becoming more of a norm of the conversation. And I think that is where it has to just keep going. And as we're able to raise kids that have this culture of water safety, or that get water safety education very early, then we will start that, those kids are going to age up. Those kids are going to age and become parents. And one of the things that you asked what Colin's Hope was doing, and that I want to talk a little bit about, is something that we really strongly believe in. So Colin was 4, and I've said the stat about under 5 being the highest risk. So we have developed a preschool curriculum for out of the water safety. And I'll just show you, this is like the miniature version of what preschool teachers get. And it's a big hand, and it's the whole hand rules. And it's got these, preschool friendly Velcro things. And we teach little kids who are 4, preschool and kindergartners, basic water safety rules. So they're very simple. We looked at a lot of different things that were out there and wanted to find something that was really simple. Kids understand the rules. They understand a hand. They understand simple directions. So for example, the first rule is like, wait for a grown-up. Don't go to the water without asking permission, and you wait for a grown-up. Simple. Second one is learn how to swim. How important it is to learn how to swim and learn how to float on your back and learn how to get back to the side if you fall in. The third one is about wearing life jackets. And we talk about like, what is a life jacket? What does it look like? How does it fit? It should fit tight like a hug. It's not water wings and those things. The fourth one is grown-ups should be watching you. And that's another goes kind of back to the wait for a grown-up, but it's, we challenge kids to respectfully tell their adults, hey, you're not watching me. You need to be watching me. Please keep your eyes on me. I mean, we're talking to this younger kids to get them growing up with this different culture of water safety. And then the last one,
and that works. I remember coming home and learning about, turning off lights or, environmental stuff in first grade. And coming home and telling my mom, like, hey, you're not shutting the lights off. You're not recycling. You're not, doing the stuff you're supposed to be. So that, making kids accountable for their parents, it works.
Really helping them. Oh, and I've gotten Facebook messages from people that are like, you told my child to tell me to get off my phone when they're at the pool. I'm like, you're right. I did.
Sure did. Yeah, definitely. I did. Yeah.
And then the last one that we talked to them about is staying away from drains, because with alongside our friends at the Zach Foundation and Abby's Hope, drain entrapment and staying away from drains. And for kids, it's very simple. Just stay away from the drains. Each of our little lessons have hand motions and songs, and it's all preschool appropriate. But when we talk about raising kids that are have better water safety behaviors, and so we just decided we were going to start and just pound the pavement. You see this guy right here, and he's in the process of being created, but this is our new Colin character that will go alongside the curriculum, and he's not really out yet, so this is just a draft. But we felt like we wanted someone who would talk to kids, and we tested it out with my coworker's little baby, and he was so infatuated with Colin, and Colin has a sidekick who's a SEAL, who I don't have a picture of him, but we're really working on talking to kids and helping raise up that culture of kids to be more water safety aware. And and then we also talk to parents. I mean, the nature of our water safety cards and our website and our water safety quiz is then getting to the parents and saying, hey, we need to educate the kids, and then we also need to educate the parents, and together we can create that, that safety net. And that's where we're focused. I mean, this is 10 years of doing this work and 10 years of finding out, getting people's attention and doing it in Colin's honor, and doing it in a way that, again, the whole best day ever thing, we, as an organization, we love the water. I love the water. I have a mermaid tattoo, which is probably visible in this thing. Like, we love the water. We want people to love the water, but we want them to learn how to be safer around water. And that's really what all that we're about. It's very simple. And we will partner we have so many partnerships, and I love partnerships because we're able to reach so many more people, and we're able to, we have a partnership right now with Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm really proud of that partnership because it allows us to go statewide, and we're small but mighty. We're a small organization, but we're going into communities across Texas, working alongside DFPS to take our preschool curriculum to train home visitors that go into homes and work with families around safety things. And so we'll be trained 360 home visitors this year to reach close to 10,000 families in their homes with water safety. That's the kind of stuff that we're doing. Partnerships that Colin's Hope has and is building. We have lots of tiny little ones, and then we have lots of bigger ones. And I think that is how, working together, we're gonna get this, and we really can. I do believe that we can change the norms of water safety and cultural norms, and that is what's gonna take the numbers down. I mean, we have a vision of a world where no child drowns. We have a big, bold goal of ending drowning in Central Texas by 2023, and I will say, I don't even want to say it out loud, but I will say it because I don't want to jinx myself. But in Central Texas, so far this year, we have not had a fatal drowning yet, and that is awesome. And we want to keep that going throughout the summer, because it's just already 90 degrees here. But I do feel like working together, we can turn the tide on this. It's a global epidemic, but we can do it.
And I love how you're doing it from a cultural norm perspective, and a multi-generational way of doing it, because I think that's the heart of it, right? Is if you can start training young minds into realizing how important this is, and start, changing how we think about water and how we think about water safety and how we perceive the pool. And I think if we can start there, you can see long-term effects. And the short-term things we do for educating parents and adding layers of protection, all that is super necessary. But I think the work you're doing on a long-term scale, on a larger scale, is really important. I don't think there's enough people doing it either. So I'm glad that you guys exist, because it's really fantastic.
Thank you. Because I'll tell you what, prevention work is really difficult. I mean, I can distribute 75,000 pieces of educational material, and I know that we're impacting people with our messaging, but you don't see the ones that you prevent.
Right. It's hard to quantify that.
How many lives did we save? I don't know with that. Right. Our preschool program, we know because we evaluate it, and with statistical significance, we know that we raise kids' water safety knowledge levels. And because there's a swim lesson portion that goes alongside it, we know that they're improving their swimming skills, and we know we're educating parents. And so we have to just keep doing those things, keep doing more of those things, again, like you said, we talked to a lot of grandparents too. And so it's like, I actually love doing the young children, the parents, and then the grandparents, because I'll tell you what, grandparents right now have even a different thing about association with water, or understanding about, the need for barriers and things like that, because, 70 years ago, it was even more different than it was 50 years ago or whatever. Right. So that whole cultural thing is really an interesting phenomenon. If we don't work the entire spectrum, it's, we're not going to move the needle. And I mean, that's really what we're wanting to do. So thank you for acknowledging that, because it's a very strategic approach for us. And again, we're small. I mean, we're 3 staff people, and we're bigger than we were 10 years ago, which was all volunteer. And we're bigger than we were a year ago, but we're still, trying to leverage every resource we can, and every partnership we can, and every collaboration to get more people listening. So. No.
And, it's funny. People ask me all the time, how many lives we've saved with pool fencing. Same idea. We've installed tens of thousands of pool fences throughout the country, and in the 15 countries we're in the last 30 years. And, how many kids have you saved? And I mean, there's no way to know, right?
Right.
I know that no kid is drowned with one of our fences. I know that. So, I mean, I imagine that some of those kids
some sort of
may have drowned.
Statistical calculation that I am not smart enough to know.
Yeah, me either. But yeah, so I mean, it's a tough thing to figure out, who would have drowned if you hadn't done something.
Right.
But you got to, just like I got to know that it's making a difference. There's no way you can install that many layers of protection in that many homes and someone hasn't been saved. That would be statistically impossible, in my opinion.
Right. So thank you for the work that you're doing, because again, it's going to take the people in the pool industry. I know that's a group that we've really started working with, whether it's pool service maintenance providers or pool builders.
And they've really come around. When we first came in business 30 years ago, pool builders and pool service guys, mostly pool builders, didn't want anything to do with water safety or pool safety or pool fence. We were kind of the redheaded stepchild of the industry. The idea of telling a prospective pool customer that your kid might drown in this thing I'm trying to sell you was, they thought it would hurt their business.
Right.
But now that, pool safety is so prevalent, they've figured out that owning it is better than trying to ignore it. And if they add it to their business and make it a part of what they do, they can actually overcome objections that parents might already have. And it might actually help their business to be thinking about safety, the whole way through.
Right.
So it's a cultural shift, like you talked about.
Exactly.
That's occurred. And I think it's for the benefit of parents and consumers and pool owners. So it's really nice that there's been this change in thinking from the pool industry side.
Oh, and I love to see that, because we have multiple local pool service companies that we work alongside, and I go speak to their service techs and tell them, and I will credit Jeremy Smith for who I know you know for saying this, because I channel him every time I talk to pool service guys and gals, is that the ability that they have to impact a family because they're in their backyard, and they're able to see behaviors that could be potentially dangerous. So they're able to see things like gates that don't latch, or toys in the pool, or all the things that pool service techs see. And I spent a year cleaning pools, helping out a friend. And part of the reason that I did that was to help out a friend. And part of it was because I wanted to see people's behaviors in their backyards so that I could better talk to people and say, hey, that big giant Shamu thing you have in the pool, super fun, but like, get it out of the pool and get it away from the pool. Like the baby carriage that's right by the pool that you just forgot to bring in, like that's a distractor for a child to go towards the pool, and things like that. And so the power of pool service folks and what they can do to raise their customers' awareness levels and make their pools more fun too, is huge. And I think we've joined hands and arms and whatever with so many pool industry folks, because I believe that, again, it's that more people with this message, and we give them water safety cards and they distribute them to their customers. And we've worked with Latham Pool Products and CoverStar, which are big companies, and with they have some of our water safety cards with their logo on them. They paid for them, and they give those to every time they sell a product. They give those out, and it shows. I think it shows their customers that they care. And so, and influences them with positive messaging. So we are at Colin's Hope. We're trying to be, small, and use every resource and multiply our resources with partnerships and reach just as many people as we can with the same message. Drowning is fast, drowning is silent, drowning is preventable. Here's simple things you can do. And we've put the tools on this website for you or on this card, but just help us get it out there. And that's,
I'm teaching a little pool safety for pool guys class tomorrow. We're giving out, free coffee at this little local breakfast place. And we've invited all the local pool guys there to, and the pitch was kind of, if a parent comes to you and asks you as the pool expert, how do I protect my pool? Do you know what to say? Do you know what I call the 5.5 layers of protection? Do you know the advice to give them on how to make their pool a safer place for children?
Yeah.
And if you don't, are you liable if you tell them the wrong info?
Yeah.
So yeah, we
That's
had this
awesome.
idea a couple weeks ago, and it's tomorrow. Actually, we'll see how many people show up. Hopefully, at least one.
That's one. Even if just one shows up, one person. But challenge the one person or the more people. I think you'll have more. But challenge them to go take our water safety quiz too. Because
I will.
You can create yourself a little hashtag like lifesaver or something, whatever you want to call it, and then we'll be able to track on our Water Guardian wall who came. Yeah, I can track it by zip code too. But but also, I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm super
Prevention Council.
I was gonna say I'm super real quick. I'm super jealous of your quiz, by the way. I really wish I had thought of that first. I saw it and I was like, oh, that is good. Like,
well, do you want to hear a really quick story of that quiz? Because it's really kind of cool. So I wanted the quiz, and we got in Austin. We're a very tech savvy city.
Sure.
And so they had basically, what was it called? It was
was it South by Southwest?
No. It was I'm spacing what it was called, but it's like basically a hackathon. And so I created the content for the quiz alongside experts in each quiz, question area. And then we basically had a team of tech guys and gals, and they were sequestered in their office building for 24 hours. And they created all the back end of the code and all that stuff that I don't know anything about. And they created the quiz for us. And then we, bumped it over onto our website and launched it. And so that was like probably a very expensive project that did not cost any money for us other than the hosting on the site and the stuff on our website, because we involved these tech guys and gals, and they banged it out over, a 24-hour period. It was amazing. And that was an idea I had, and then it just sort of surfaced. And again, we use any innovative thing that we grab on hold of and try to figure out how to get it out. So you can be jealous of it, but now you can just help us share it. How about that? And then you didn't have to do the work behind it.
Right. No, I love it. It's a great thing. So you were going to talk about the National Injury Council?
Prevention Council. Yeah. So when you were talking about backyard pools, so Kim Hodges with NIPC, Kim lost her son Brandon to a backyard pool drowning, and she had created a backyard pool checklist, safety checklist, and we worked on revising it with her. And in Texas, we've got O'Neill's Pools here in Austin we trained all of their service techs to go do this checklist, and it's basically the pool service tech goes in and for a customer, and it's free of charge, and it's not an inspection. It's just a checklist of going through different safety things, looking at the gates, looking at the fence, looking at the safety things. There's some general water safety questions, and the pool service tech does the checklist and goes over it with the customer and the homeowner and just educates them on some things that they may need to do to make their backyard pool safer. And that's something that I'm really proud of, and I'm proud of for NIPC for getting it out there. Kim's been training people in Arizona and across the country with that program. So again, it's just that getting as many people to be talking about this and working alongside each other is awesome.
That's really cool. And I would love to have her on too, actually. That sounds great.
Well, and she's behind the another commercial message, the Dare to Wear one. And they just released a PSA that is actually on YouTube, and I can get you the link. And it's basically it's 3 groups of high school boys talking about how they lost their friends to drownings because their friends weren't wearing life jackets. So it's Connor Gage's friends, Chris Gregor's friends, and Jose Servin's friends. And now the boys are high school and college age, but they lost their high school age friends, best friends, to drownings. And it's a really powerful PSA, and NIPC and the LV Project and Colin's Hope and Chris Gregor Fund are behind getting that out. And that's something that I'll share it with you because it's pretty difficult to watch because you're watching high school boys talking about, losing their friends to something that could have been prevented with a life jacket. So right.
Yeah. There's some great PSAs out there. The Abby's Hope one recently.
Oh, yeah. The Water Watchdog. That's pretty epic and hard to watch. I think they did that. I think they produced that last year, and I remember I saw it again the other day, but it's a really awesome one.
It's fantastic. It is hard to watch, but it's really, really good.
Yeah.
So what if I'm sure there's a few things, but if there was something you think that would have helped Colin, what would it have been?
Certainly the water guarding, appoint an adult who's watching. Colin drowned in a life-guarded pool. And, I know that with family and friends around and a busy pool and everything bad that could have happened did. And, I know, again, it's back to that kind of cultural norm changing. I know when I was a kid, I would get dropped off, not when I was 4, but when I was older, at the pool, and I would spend the whole day at the pool, and the lifeguards were the babysitters for, we were, early, 11, 12, that kind of age. But I think people changing the norm and people's thoughts around when you go to a lifeguarded pool, that you're still part, as an adult, as a caregiver, as a parent, you are watching your own children. Lifeguards have a very difficult job, and it is very difficult to watch all the water and to see all the things and to have that job. And I train lifeguards quite often, and I asked a group of 18-year-old lifeguards, like, what's one thing that you would like me to share with parents and with kids that may come to your pool? And they said, please tell people that we're not babysitters. We're trained to rescue, but parents need to watch. And that is probably why we go with the water guardian as our primary message. Be a water guardian, watch kids around water, keep them in arm's reach. And certainly that's, that probably would have changed things in Colin's situation and in a lot of the families that we work with. And so we and the Not One More cards, which I got to figure out where they were. If I look at Colin's card, And we did these strategically where it has the story and the picture on the front, and on the back is a message from the family. And then we have this little talk bubble. And in that talk bubble, we asked each family to write the one thing that they feel would have prevented the drowning from happening. And on Colin's, it says, always appoint a water guardian to watch children, even when a lifeguard is present. So to answer your question, I think the water guardian thing and more adults watching and would be our primary message. And, we're now turning the tragedy into triumph and just really trying to get people to change their behaviors. And behaviors are hard to change. I mean, really, they are.
So when you appoint a water guardian or a water watcher, is it for the entire session?
Good question. Okay.
Is it every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes? So I usually say every 15 minutes, but
I'm going to actually break out the water guardian badge from our little thing here, and we'll do a little demonstration. Okay. So the water guardian badge. So what we say is have one of these water guardian tags, and whoever is the adult on duty, typical lifeguard shifts are 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So that seems like a really good.
Yeah, and they're trained professionals, obviously,
Right. So I mean, I don't know. Let's pretend we're at a pool party, because backyard pool parties are my worst nightmare now.
Right. Mine too.
So say you're at a pool party and you have 10 kids in the pool and a gaggle of adults there. 15 minutes. What about appointing a 15-minute session? And that person wears the water guardian badge, and they know it's a signal that they're on duty. They're watching the water. And in 15 minutes, they say, hey, Eric, you're on duty, and physically transfer the water guardian badge to the next person, and they're on duty for 15 minutes. And someone's always watching. I mean, 15 minutes, you can do anything for 15. Make it 10. I don't know. Whatever is doable for the adults that are there. But that is a way that you never get your eyes off the water, and you see if something happens. And that's, again, drowning is fast, drowning is silent, drowning is preventable, right? So if we're watching and we're seeing things and we've got kids in arm's reach, I will never forget this. So we distribute, again, 75,000 of these every year. And again, it's that whole thing of like, are we reaching people? Are people doing this? Someone texted me a picture a couple summers ago, and it was of a person sitting in a lawn chair at the edge of a pool, and they had this on their wrist. And I did the happy dance. I mean, it was like, thank you. People are listening, and it's a, and the kids see it. And then they know too that, hey, and again, it's that whole educating the kids to say, hey, who's the water guardian? Who's the water guardian? And I'll say, this will be my message to parents. Like, if your kid is going to a pool party at the end of school, because we're about to have that, or Memorial Day or whatever, please ask questions. Please call the parents where your child is going and ask, will there be adults watching the water? Are there lifeguards going to be on duty? And are there going to be water guardians, adults in addition to lifeguards? Because that is something that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't, even this has not crossed their mind. Great, a pool party. That's so great. So much fun. Yay. And of course,
they'll ask if the food is, if there's sugar free.
Who's bringing the pizza? Or is there dye in the food? Is there whatever? But ask the questions. Ask the questions. Are there going to be adults watching the water at all times? How many adults? Do you have a system? Can I help? My daughter, who's now finishing 7th grade, last year, I got it's the 6th grade pool party email, which was like my worst nightmare, because it was 100 6th graders at a backyard pool. And I, of course, did what my daughter was probably mortified. And I just called up the parent and said, how can I help? What, are you going to have lifeguards on duty? Or are you going to have adults? And there were lifeguards on duty. And I parked myself by the pool the entire time, much to my daughter's dismay, and was a water guardian, because I know that I wouldn't have been able to she wouldn't have gone to that party if there hadn't been appropriate supervision. But we have to ask the questions. And, similarly, like, I'll transition really quickly into this, but, camps, summer camps. If your kid's going to summer camp, I usually do a Facebook Live about this. So here's a tease, ask the camp, call up the camp and say, hey, are kids swimming? What are your water safety protocols? Do you swim test kids? Do you go in open water? Are your lifeguards open water certified or waterfront trained? Because, watching open water is very different than watching pool water. But again, it's that, let's be proactive as parents, as adults, and challenge the current cultural norms and be the role models. I told that 13-year-old that I was interviewed by yesterday, I'm like, I challenge you, Kendall, to be an example, to be someone who's doing something different, to wear a life jacket and change how you behave. And I think that if we start doing that and we start getting other people to do that, and we start asking the questions, this is what's going to change our culture around water.
Absolutely. And I think it's fantastic on the Water Guardian end. And it's kind of redundant because everybody's phone has a timer. I once thought about making an app that had like a 15-minute timer on it, you know.
Okay, so Eric, don't say anything else. I'm not gonna say anything else. You and I are gonna work on a project because I've had a dream app that we've had in the back idea board for about 5 years, and it involves something like that. Maybe we can team up because I don't want to say it online because I don't want to give away our millions of dollars that we're going to put into drowning prevention with this app. But we're on it. Let's talk about it.
Perfect. I love it. So, man, we've been going for an hour already. That's fantastic. So maybe we can wrap up quickly. But what are two things that someone could do right now to help prevent drowning?
Okay. One, go to colinshope.org and take our water safety quiz, and then share it on social media. Also, you can go and change your Facebook profile picture to the National Water Safety Month. Be a Water Guardian, one that we have in Colin Holst. So in Facebook, when you can go on our Facebook page and you can find the link to do that. But those are two simple things. They will take 5 minutes. And then take and share the quiz, and then change your profile picture. And people will ask you about it, and then challenge them to do it. Those are simple things. And the third thing, you only asked for two, and I think I told you to ask me for two, so I'll add a third one. Yeah. And that's just keep talking about water safety. Talk about it with your kids. Talk about it with your friends. Challenge other people to have this conversation, and do it in honor of the kids. Please, again, this is why we're doing this work, and we're doing this work so that these families and these courageous families who have lost children or almost lost children to drowning, and that they're using their courage to impact lives and save lives, and honor these kids, and do this and make this something that we can really shift this culture of water safety. And then have the best day ever, right?
That's awesome. And so if there were some takeaway tips that parents could do to make them, we're finishing up, or we're in the middle of May right now, and then we're headed into June. We're in prime pool season. Yes. Some simple tips that parents can do to keep their kiddos safer around water.
Sure. I'm going to give you actually the 5 actions that are on the back of our Water Guardian badge. So the first one is assign an adult water guardian to constantly watch children around water. The second is learn to swim and never swim alone. And that's anyone of all ages. I can swim. I've swum as far as 9 miles at one time, and I don't ever swim by myself. So wear a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. That's the third one. The fourth, you'll appreciate this one. Ensure multiple barriers around water. So we're talking about fences as multiple barriers. And then learn CPR and refresh your skills every year. So our friends at CPR Party, Laura Metro, whose son Clay survived a non-fatal drowning, learn CPR. It's something that everyone should have in their toolbox, and kids, as young as 9 or 10 can learn CPR. But why wouldn't you want to have that in your toolbox? So those are my 5 actions.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I have 5. I call them 5.5 layers of protection, and they're similar. You've got parent supervision, high locks on all the doors and windows that lead to the pool. Yep. A barrier between the home and the pool, like a fence, that goes around it. Alarms in the pool, warning the child, or on the doors and windows that lead to the pool. Swimming lessons, some kind of swim instruction, knowing how to swim. And the 0.5, because it's not a layer of protection, but it's important, is CPR. Oh, so, I
love that. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Good. That's it.
Well, thank you again for having me. This was really fun.
It was really fun. Any questions? Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I just want to get people, just keep this in front of your mind, and help us keep the message going throughout we work 365 days a year, but especially this time when we're about to get people taking to water, every single day because it's getting hotter. So thanks.
Great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And have the best day ever.
Have the best day ever. And then we're going to talk about that app.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Later. Bye. Bye.